next week we're gonna do it. So welcome to Jets Rewind. I'm Marty Shupak. I'm joined by Ray Clifford and Ralph Schrager. And fellas, how you doing? We're like 6 days away from our draft and our draft show. This is a live stream, by the way, if you're on YouTube. Hopefully it's working. Ralph, how you doing?
I'm doing great. This is the best time of year to be a Jets fan, as usual. Hopefully that'll change during the regular season. But hope springs eternal. Draft time.
Yeah, and Ray, how you doing?
Time of year to be a Jets fan, as usual. Hopefully that'll change during the regular season. But hope springs eternal. Draft time.
Ray, how you doing?
Spoke too soon.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Talk.
I'm doing good. I'm still mulling over some draft picks, but we're all 0-0, so we're in first place.
Yeah, you're like Joe Douglas. You're going to get caught with your pants down, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm trying to do this technical aspects. Of course, I'm having a problem with the live stream. If you're at home, you don't hear it, just try to turn it up. I'm trying not to mute it. Yeah. Okay. All right. Here we go. Ralph.
This could be difficult, yeah.
You have a trivia question.
So I have a classic trivia question. It's a painful one for Jet fans, and it's also a teaching moment for young people who haven't been through hundreds of drafts like we have. Since 1990, the Jets have drafted 7 receivers in the second round, and every one of them has been a bust, which is the probabilities of that are so mind-boggling that, like Marty and I were talking about before, okay, if you stuck 6 names in a hat each year when they were doing this and had a 3-year-old pull one out, you'd have to get a better result than that. I mean, you think of all the time that these scouts put out on the road and watching film and interviewing, and to come up with 0 out of 7 is unbelievable. Anyway, Marty sent us a list of busts, and so there were 3 of them on there. I'll give you those 3: Stephen Hill, Denzel Mims, and Devin Smith. Can you name the other 4? This is since 1990.
That is a good question. And now these are they receivers or wide receivers?
Wide receivers, yeah. We're not even counting Jay Samaro in that.
He was such a bum. Mike Francesa was pushing him, but that guy, he was such a bum. All right, so that's a good question, but and we have a full agenda. And let's start. I guess we're gonna do a mock draft, Ralph, and I think we're gonna do like 4 picks. Why don't you explain the conditions?
So the first one, we're going to do 2 mock drafts, have a little fun. The first one is going to be where the Jets are picking right now. The second one, we're going to make a trade to make it more interesting. And we'll go 4 rounds, although I have to say I stuck in a 6th round pick for each because I saw some guys I really liked. And so we'll start with pick number 10. And we're going to go with Ray for her first pick number 10.
Right. Okay. And you pick the same people?
Well, we don't know who we're picking, so we might end up picking the same people, but I don't want to duplicate my own picks in each draft. That's what I was saying. Hopefully we won't pick the same guys. We'll all be creative, but
Right. So you want Ray to pick first?
Yeah, Ray, you pick first.
Okay. Since I have the choice of the ones I wrote down, I'm going with who I want the most is Fashanu out of Penn State. I think Bowers will be gone. Honestly, that's one of them.
Wow, interesting.
I think somebody is going to trade up and snag Bowers.
So you think if Bowers is there, the Jets would take him?
Yeah, I do. Well, but I don't. If that's the case, then I don't think Fashanu will be there. I don't think Alt will be there either.
Right.
So
okay.
I like Fashanu. To me, he even though they talk about Alt, to me Fashanu's the more pro ready from what I'm reading, with all his
He's
experience.
also extremely young, but he looks like the purest left tackle pass blocking wise.
Yeah, that's what I was reading too. So I like Alt, but I don't know. Yeah,
All right,
he was a
Marty,
tight end,
what do
but
you got for us, Marty?
Well, I mentioned him, I think either 1 week or 2 weeks ago. I'm falling in love, which Ralph has always told me, Ray, for like 50 years, never fall in love with one player when it comes to the draft. But I'm like the biggest sucker. I like this guy from Washington, Troy Fatanu, and he's a tackle, but they're talking about maybe he could move inside. But from what I see, this guy, and I mentioned this, he's like a clone of our guard. What's his name? Who's injured?
Vera Tucker, yeah.
Elijah Vera Tucker. He's got pretty long arms for his position, and he could very easily go from inside to outside. I think really on next Thursday, I think Joe Douglas, his motivation with the offensive line is to get versatile players that if they're a center, they could play guard. If they're guard, they could play center. And if they're guard, they could play guard and tackle. So that's what I'm looking for. So that's my pick. Ralph, you go.
Well, we got this year for the tackles, we got the three Fs. It's like the three tenors, in opera. And I'm going to pick the third one, Fuega, Talise Fuega. I like him. I like all of them. I'd be happy with any one of them, but actually I had Fuega as mine for a couple of reasons. One, because his last name rhymes with mine, Shirega, and that's the important one. But everyone knows he's a nasty, nasty guy. But I watched clips of him going up against Latu, the UCLA edge rusher, who's going to be a first-round pick. Play after play, he just swallowed that guy up. He's playing right tackle now. I think he can play left, but I don't think it really matters. In the NFL now, you need two good tackles. You need a right and a left. You can't have a left tackle and put an average guy at right because they'll pick on him. So I think Douglas, if he gets one of these three guys, we've got a core foundation for the future on their line with Vera Tucker, Joe Tippmann, hopefully Simpson is a young guy, and this will bode well not only for Rodgers but whoever takes Rodgers' place. And we all know that the offensive line is where it's at in football. Without it, all the skill position guys in the world are useless, as we found out the last couple of years.
Okay, Ralph, that's I like all three. Obviously, I like all three picks. So we're gonna go now to pick number 72. And I think we're gonna snake it backwards. So Ralph, why don't you start? I guess I'll always be in the middle. So go ahead.
We need a receiver. There'll be lots of receivers there, and I looked at a bunch of them who we're going to go in the second or third round. And the guy I liked, I believe it or not, I think he's a bit of a comp to our own Garrett Wilson, is Jermaine Burton from Alabama. He has great body control. He's about the same height, about 10 pounds heavier than Garrett Wilson. Great body control, catches those balls contorted. His production wasn't high, and that was mainly because he had a lousy quarterback. But I think that he gets out of his breaks really sharply too. A lot like Wilson, I think he'll be around, and I think he'd be a great bookend for Wilson.
Okay, that's a good pick, and I too am going to pick a receiver, but I'm going with probably the third receiver from Washington, Jalen McMillan, and here's a guy that his stats they don't jump off the chart. I mean, his stats were better last year, but he played more games. He was a little injured this year. Last year, he had 79 receptions for 1,098. This year, he had 45 receptions for 559. Now, part of that is because, he's playing with two other receivers that are very, very good, and Penix is a good quarterback. From what I understand, he's a good kid. He's got pretty good height at 6'1". So he's my pick as a receiver for number 72. Ray, you're on, baby.
All right. I'm looking for guys who might drop that are, and this guy is one that Man, they're all over the board on this guy with the stuff I'm reading. So I'm hoping he drops us. Also a receiver, Xavier Legette. I like
Ooh,
him.
I'd love to get him at
I
that
think
spot.
he's
Yeah.
If he's available, I mean, that's great.
well,
I don't think he makes that in a
I
second.
I wouldn't know, but I'm reading one and I saw him go anywhere from first round to third round, I think it was, into the sixth round. And I was like, okay, he's not going in the sixth. But
Yeah, there
I'm
are some
hoping maybe,
outliers.
there are a lot of receivers in the draft. So there is the possibility of uh of him dropping, because a lot of guys who might have been running backs in years past are now looking at the money and saying, I want to be a receiver. So there are a ton of receivers with upside in the draft.
Right. Okay, I think that's a good pick. And Ray, we're going to have you
You know
start.
who he reminds me of size-wise and physicality is AJ Brown. Very
Yeah,
similar. Yeah.
yeah, you're right.
Yep.
Yeah. Now look at now he's from where?
South Carolina. He was with the Rattler. Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's right. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, he's a beast. I like that guy too.
Ralph, is that a Ratner or Rattler?
It's Second Avenue Deli.
Okay, yeah, that's it. Okay, Ray, you're going to start now. We're only going to do 4 picks, and if you guys don't mind, Ralph, I know you set up the agenda. I want to like sandwich the other mock draft between something that I put up. But
All
okay,
right.
go
Yeah,
ahead,
yeah.
Ray. You go with the 111th pick,
Okay.
and this is the 4th round.
Yeah. I'm going with yeah, I debated on what position to go with, and I finally settled on I'm going to go with a guy out of Washington, Braylon Trice, an edge rusher.
Saw a lot of him in
He's
the
got a lot of
playoffs. Yeah.
physicality. He's got I think he could not just be an edge, but a decent outside linebacker, and I think we need to shore up the linebackers a little bit again. So I think he might be a good fit to fill in there and be an edge if needed, as far as rushing the passer. So I wanted some guys with some flexibility, versatility, and I think he fits that mold.
All right, that good one. All right, I'm going to go next, and before the Jets re-signed Ashton Davis, Ralph brought out a point how the safety position isn't talked about enough, and it's kind of under the radar. And even though it's becoming kind of like a running back situation where it's kind of devalued, I really am not sure how they're going to work out this year. So I'm going to take a guy, Cole Bishop, a safety out of Utah. I don't know if he's going to be available at that pick. I mean, from the charts I saw, he is. I think he's a pretty good ball player, and I'm not sure what's going to happen. I mean, we all like Ashton Davis. He had a good year, but we have the other guy coming off the injury. What's his name, Ralph?
Chuck Clark.
Chuck Clark, and then also who's the Teflon safety we have?
Tony Adams,
Tony Adams,
the teacher's pet. He and
teacher's
Jamin
pet.
Sherwood are
Yeah.
the teacher's pets on
He's
that
got the
team.
gold jacket. So I like getting a safety then. So that's my pick, Cole Bishop. All right, Ralph.
All right, Marty, you're gonna love me now because I'm gonna pick a quarterback. I'm gonna pick Michael Pratt from Tulane, who watched a lot of film of, and I kept watching, waiting to see his mobility, and he's actually a good athlete as well as extremely accurate passer. And I just think Marty's absolutely right. They have to pick a quarterback. And it's a perfect place. Sit him for 2 years behind these veterans. You get the offensive line built up, and you'll see a much better result than this chucking these guys in there without them being ready. So he's the guy we'll try.
Okay, good. All right, we're gonna start the last one is what, 134? Is that what?
Yeah.
That's all right. Okay, and who goes? Ralph?
Yep.
Yeah, I go. A position that is not talked about, but I'm worried about it, is depth at cornerback. I'm not a Brandon Eccles fan, And I feel like the Jets need to start developing someone else. And we're going to get into this a little later, but the guy I like, he's a local guy for me, plays right down the street at BC, a guy named Elijah Jones. He's a rangy guy. He's actually from New York City. And he's definitely an outside corner. He's not a slot guy. And I want someone else ready to step in rather than Brandon Eccles. I don't trust him at all.
You know, Ralph, that's a great point. I was telling Ray, another Jets podcast had me start a new thing called Jet Shorts by Marty. And I just did one last night that's going to be published this week. And the topic was that under the radar after the draft, I think a top priority is to extend Michael Carter II, because we don't know what's happening with DJ Reed if they don't restructure. And Michael Carter II, who's a slot, I mean, he had a better PFF rating than DJ Reed, 80 something, not as good as Sauce. But you know, a guy like that, he's going to leave and want to become a number one and number two defensive back. So Ralph, that's a good pick, because that's, again, I hate to keep using the term under the radar, but it's something they're going to have to address. So good one. Now it's my turn. The last pick of this for me. And Ralph, you picked a quarterback, and I'm picking someone who we spoke about last week, Jordan Travis, I guess from Florida State, who got injured. I guess, what was it, a broken leg?
Bad. It's a broken ankle and dislocated. I guess.
Oh, it was ankle? Oh,
yeah, I think it was ankle.
right.
Maybe it was like whatever. It was a nasty injury, and he'll be there at 4 in the
So
fourth
he'll
round. Yeah.
start definitely on the PUP list, and he might start on the disabled. But I kind of looked into him. He's got pretty good vision. He's very aware, and I think it's a perfect situation as long as our number one quarterback and number two quarterbacks don't get hurt. So my last pick is Jordan Travis. Ray, you go.
I like that too. I like Jordan Travis a lot. My last pick is back to the line. I flip-flopped on these because he also had injuries, but I'm still going with him. Zach Zinter out of Michigan. Who,
Yeah, he's a local guy from up here in New England.
Yeah, he is. He's a big guy that he's going to drop because of the injury.
Yeah,
but I think he would be eventually, as long as that injury doesn't really affect him long term. I think he's going to be an outstanding.
So he's just an interior guy. He was a center. Can he play guard?
He can play guard. Yeah, he could play guard. So to me, that would be a great to start out depth guy and eventually work his way in.
All right, good pick. So just in review, if you're just joining us, and this is Jets Rewind, and we're doing a live stream too. We just did like the first 4 picks. Our first out of 2 mock drafts. I picked Troy Fontenot, Jalen McMillan, the wide receiver, Cole Bishop, the safety from Utah, and Jordan Travis, the quarterback from Florida State. Ralph, go through your picks again.
I picked Talise Fuega, tackle from Oregon State, Jermaine Barton from Alabama, wide receiver, Michael Pratt, quarterback, Tulane, and Elijah Jones, a cornerback from BC.
Okay, and Ray, go through your picks again.
I was going with Fashanu, the tackle out of Penn State. Next pick, I'm hoping Xavier Legette falls to us out of Carolina. Hang on.
South Carolina, yeah.
South Carolina. Braylon Trice, an edge out of Washington. And then finally Zach Zinter out of Michigan as a guard.
Right. Okay, good picks. All right, we're going to come back. We're going to have a second mock draft, again, with just a few picks where there was a trade, and we're going to get a second-round pick. But before we do, I listed 10 questions. I'm only going to ask 5 now and 5 later. These are going to be fill-in stuff when we have our live stream next week between picks, just to make it interesting. I'm going to start with Ralph. I'm going to make notes of it, so bear with me. Ralph, I want you to name, and we're going to see who's closest. Doesn't have to be in order. Name the first 3 players drafted that aren't quarterbacks next Thursday.
Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, Harrison,
Wait a minute.
Neighbors, and Alt, let's say.
Harrison, Neighbors. All. Ray, you want to go? You want me to go?
You can go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna say Harrison. I'm gonna say Bowers. There's a surprise. And I'm gonna say neighbors. You could all do the same, Ray.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, yeah, Harrison's obviously. I think Alt will also be gone. I think Roma Dunze may go ahead of Neighbors, so I'm going to go with him.
I don't think that'll ever happen, but
That's you.
I hope it
do.
does. It's good. I hope it does. If the Jets can get neighbors, that would be great. All right, so that's question one. Here's question two. Okay, I'm going to start with Ray. I'm making notes. We're going to see how many come to fruition. Ray, in the first 16 picks, how many picks are going to be wide receivers?
The first 16.
So that's first half of the draft.
And just wide receiver, not tight end.
That's
right?
wide receivers, not tight end.
Four.
All right, I'm going to go next, Ralph. I'm going to say 6.
Whoa.
I'm going to say
Do you
6.
have them listed?
Huh? No, we just
You
have
have a
to.
list of who?
I have in my mind, I have,
All right. Let me just say I'll say 5. I'll split the difference.
okay, fine. Okay, so we'll see what happens. All right, Ralph, I'm going to start with
A lot of
you.
money riding on this.
You ready? Well,
Yeah.
it's going to make, we're going to have time in between picks.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it'll catch up to this. It'll be
Absolutely.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ralph, okay, how many teams that are not in the top 10 will trade up into the top 10?
Oh,
For
okay.
instance, you can't include the
Sure.
Giants if the Giants go from 6 to 3.
Right. Oh, okay. Ooh, that's 2.
Yeah. Okay. Ray,
Go over that. How many will trade into the top 10?
Yeah.
up to the top 10. Yeah.
But
Into
from
it.
outside the top 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
Two sounds good, but I'll go with 1.
1. I'm gonna say 3. I'm gonna say they're gonna get crazy. I think we're all gonna agree that one of them is gonna be Minnesota, right?
It seems that way, but sometimes, the obvious
don't.
doesn't happen.
And now I'm hearing Oakland now is starting to get a little hungry.
Vegas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any of those teams like 13, 12, 11, maybe even 14, they wouldn't have to give up as much as some of the ones further back.
No.
Right. That's
You
right.
know, you'd be surprised if you move up 2 slots from like 10 to 8 for the Jets. That's not a high pick. It's maybe a late third or a fourth. It's not huge, but
Right. Yep. Okay, Ralph, I'm gonna. Who did I start last time? I'll start with Ray this time. All right, there in the first round, I guess every team there are 32 picks. Everyone knows this is like an offensive heavy draft. In the first round, for offensive players, the over-under is 18.5 players. What would you pick, over or under?
Oh, just offensive players?
Offensive, yeah.
I'd say I'd be over.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely over too. There's what, 32 teams, right? 32 picks. Yeah, over.
I think it's a clean sweep. I'm going over
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I think you could have bumped that up a little. Yeah.
All right, here we go. The last question of the first 5, we'll come back to the 5 others later. We'll start with Ralph. In the top, we'll say the top 16 picks, the first half. How many defensive players will be chosen?
In the top 16?
Yeah.
I'll say 5.
Okay, Ray?
I'll repeat that. I was looking at something else.
I'll go. I ask the question and I'm going to go.
Okay.
How many defensive players will be chosen in the top 16 picks? I'm going to say 4. Ralph said 5. You could pick the same thing.
Yeah, 4 sounds right.
Okay, Ray's gonna go 4. All right, we're gonna get back to the next mock draft in just a second, but first, Brock Bowers has been tied to the Jets, I think, since the day the season ended. On and off, but lately it's just, and it's amazing how how polarized the Jet fans are about him. So I guess I'll start with Ralph. What sort of reaction would you have if the Jets picked Brock Bowers?
Well, I guess I'd have 2 reactions. My first would be I'd be disappointed, but then I'd embrace the guy and hope he becomes a great player. The thing about Bowers that's driving me crazy is all these people say, get Bowers, you just plug him in and play him, and he becomes an automatic star. And there's no guarantee of that with any rookie. And when you consider the fact that last year, without a quarterback, with a horrible offensive line, Tyler Conklin caught 61 passes for 620 yards. How much more do you expect Brock Bowers to do in his rookie year, or if he even gets that? Tight ends don't usually come in and just blow the place away. So I think people are kidding themselves if they think Brock Bowers, he might become a great player eventually, but in next year, and the Jets are playing to win this year, I'd bet anyone that Tyler Conklin has at least as good a numbers as Brock Bowers does where he ends up. So I don't think it's a good pick, as far as value goes, as far as the position, because it's not a position that is a dominant position in the game. And the other thing I researched was I picked like the top 3 tight ends in the league: Kelsey, Kittle, and Mark Andrews, and all their rookie years were mediocre. To Kelsey didn't even play basically. So I think people have to, put on the brakes a little about Brock Bowers stepping in and becoming a star immediately. He might eventually, but I don't think the odds are against it.
Ralph, what about you hear the theory that the Jets are all in this year and they're going to do anything to get as many weapons for Aaron Rodgers as possible?
Yeah, well, like I said, though, I mean, I think people, they make this assumption that a rookie's going to come in and be an impact player, and it rarely happens with a tight end. I don't care.
Right.
And there's been some really talented ones. Pitts actually, his rookie year had 1,000 yards.
He did.
I think half of that was against the Jets in that game in England. But other than that, I mean, what's his name? Kincaid last year had a very good year. He had 670 yards. Again, that's about what Conklin did without a quarterback. So I think people are sleeping on Conklin. I think if Rodgers stays healthy the whole year, I think Conklin's gonna have a really good year. He's a good player.
Except historically, Rodgers
right.
a lot to the tight ends.
Exactly, which is another reason you have to think about Brock Bowers.
Yeah. All right, Ray, what's your feeling if they take him?
Same as it's been for a while. I mean, I'm not going to be pissed about it. He may turn out to be a weapon for Aaron Rodgers, but Rodgers has never been, well, I won't say never. He's had good tight ends over the years. He doesn't use them like Mahomes and the San Francisco offense does, but he's another weapon. So, he'd be dangerous, but I think we're fine at tight end personally. He's not as good a blocker as Rucker.
Yeah.
So he's more of he's a better blocker when he's out, off the line than he is on the line. Let's put it that way.
Right.
I would. That's why my first pick was Fashanu. I do think he may. I just have a feeling somebody might trade up for him. But even if he's there, I wouldn't be bothered if we didn't take him. I just think alignment is more important for us. So.
Okay. All right. I'm actually warming up to him, and I think I have the same feeling as Ralph that at this point, I'm leaning towards the tackle situation, and I'd rather not pick a tight end. I like Tyler Conklin. I want to see what Rucker could do. We can't figure out the last 2 years why they're using Rucker the way they're using him. They like Yeboah. I think there are other tight ends that are available down the line. I know Theo Johnson from Penn State. This guy Sinat, I think he's from Kansas State. I've heard some good things, so I'd rather not again, but I will definitely embrace him as a Jet fan. We're going to get back to the second part of our mock draft just in a few minutes, but I just wanted to start with Ray. Going back to 2004, who do you think would be possibly, would you consider the best draft pick in the last 20 years?
Um, you know, I didn't go through all their picks to look them over, but
I sent you a list of some of them.
yeah, you did. I would have to go with I like a lot of these guys. I think I'd go with Revis
Yeah.
because he was such a difference maker on the defense.
Yep.
But there were a few of them that Brees Hall might turn out to be the one I would choose eventually, for considering that running back is so downgraded. It's hard. And Nick Mangold was a favorite of mine, but I think Revis was the biggest difference maker on the team.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let me go. It's very easy. You're tempted always to go with the number one picks that came through, which is like Revis and Mangold. But I kind of like value picks. So I like, you both know I've always loved Leon Washington. I love that pick. And I like the Brad Smith. I put Bilal Powell down there because I think he was underrated. But
Yeah.
a gun to my head, I guess I would have to say Darrelle Revis. He was like the 14th player picked. From what I remember, Tannenbaum did a couple of things to move up to get that pick. So I would say Revis. Ralph, what do you say?
It's funny. The two guys that jump out of me are Revis and Leon Washington. And the Revis thing, what makes it a really good pick is he did trade up. And I read all these statistics now. People say trading up is always bad. It's not always bad. You have to be careful. But in that case, they traded up for a guy they identified, and he became a Hall of Famer. So I don't know how you can how you cannot pick that. Yeah.
That's true. And I think Nick Mangold's going to follow him into the Hall of Fame too.
You think so? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I think he was really good. All right, now Ralph's favorite topic of all times. The worst Jet draft pick in the last 20 years. We're going to start with you, Ralph. You have so many choices. I mean,
it's like it being in a candy store. You don't know which to pick. I actually came up with three, and my thinking was this. Obviously, Vern Golston, because the guy never made a tackle in his life. I mean, literally. You know who reminded me of? Remember the movie The Magnificent Seven? The character of Robert Vaughn. He was this tough gunfighter, but the minute the fighting starts, he's like hiding behind a door, shaking like a leaf. That's Vern Golston. He's built like Adonis, and he was afraid of contact.
In the old movie, Ralph and Ray Deliverance, if you remember, there was a part where John Voight wakes up early. He goes with his crossbow or bow and arrow to kill a deer. He sees one, and he pulls it back, but he's shaking and he can't do it. And I remember Burt Reynolds, his character says it's called buck ager, where you just can't pull the trigger. You know what I mean? So that's what it reminded me of. So
I had two others I had throw in there are Hackenberg, because the guy never had a snap, which was unbelievable. And what's the third one? I can't even remember.
Okay.
All right, just go to your guys, because
I'll go. I have three. I have and this one thing is we have to do full disclosure on this. I mean, even if they become great players in other teams, it's
right. Yeah.
So I have Vernon Golston. He's everyone's number one. I have Christian Hackenberg too, and I have, I'm sorry, Zach Wilson. For the second pick in the draft, he was such a bust for the Jets. It just drove me nuts. All right, Ray, who do you have?
Obviously Vern. I also look at, I was very disappointed with D. Milner.
Oh, yeah. And Ray, you pointed out to me, too, a few years after that, there were some teams that had him rated like as a top 5 pick. It wasn't just the Jets. Yeah.
No, yeah, he was highly regarded. That just shows you how what a crapshoot this whole thing is, you know.
It is, yeah.
And the other one, I mean, these were so easy to pick from. It was hard to narrow it down to three. But the one that, because he irritates me, because I know who we could have had.
That's Ralph. That's Ray's favorite line during the year. That guy irritates me. Or he says, that referee team, they irritate me. It's like, that's great.
A lot of diaper rash, yeah.
We passed on Terry McLaurin to take Jachai Polite.
Oh yeah, that's my third. That was my third guy.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't even make it out of training camp.
What a bum. It's just, and for you Jet fans, if you're watching on the live stream or you're seeing this later on the podcast, on the Jets Rewind podcast, I made a note. You have to look up the Jets draft history for 4 years: 2012, 2014, 2015, 2017.
Well, one of them must have been the Idzik 12, I imagine.
Yeah, and the only one that came out of that was, who was the
Quincy Enunwa, yeah.
Quincy Enunwa. Don't eat your dinner before you look at those drafts, because you will projectile everything out of your body. So we're going to get back to ours. Let me ask these other 5 questions that we're going to have the answers for next week.
This is like Passover, the 5 questions. Yeah.
That's it. Ralph, everybody mentions like the 3 Fs: Talis Fiwaga, Troy Fortanu, and Olu Fashunu. I want you to tell me in order
what country they're from.
what in order, how would they be drafted? 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, okay, that's a good one. I'll say Fashanu, Fuega, and Fatno.
2, Fontanu, that's Ralph. Okay, Ray.
Yeah, same thing.
Okay. Ray. Okay. You had Fontanu first?
Fontanu last.
Fontanu last. Who do you have first? I wrote this.
Fashanu first, Fuega second, Fontanu third.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to do Fuaga first, Fashanu second, and Fontanu third. Just to be different. Okay, I'm marking that down. We should have something like a dinner is at stake or something else. All right. Very quickly, we got to get through this. And you listen to Green Rewind or watching on our live stream, whatever. And thank you for joining us. All right, we'll start with who went first last time?
I did. Yep.
All right, Ray.
Oh no, Ray, I don't even know.
Yeah, I did the first round. So
well, let's announce the trade first, Marty. So the Jets.
Oh, wait. I want to do the rest of the questions.
Oh, I thought you were.
No. Let's 4 more questions. All right. I'm saying who went first. All right, Ray.
Oh, I don't
know. I'm going to name 3 players. Give me the order that you think they'll go. These 3. You ready?
Yep.
JJ McCarthy. So you just give it 1, 2, 3. You don't have to tell me the place in the draft. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
JJ McCarthy, Joe Alt, Malik Neighbors. 1, 2, and 3. Give me the order that they're going to go off the board.
That's tough.
Alt, Neighbors, and McCarthy.
All right, I'm going to go. I'm going to say McCarthy. They're going to get. He's not going to last. McCarthy, Alt, Neighbors. I'm sorry. McCarthy, Neighbors, Alt. I think Alt's going to drop a little. I think the Jets actually might have a shot at him. I don't know if they're going to take him. I'm not in love with him, by the way. I want to go on the record saying that. All right, Ralph. McCarthy, Alt, Neighbors, your order.
I'll go Neighbors, Alt, McCarthy.
2. Okay, very good. All right, Ralph, we'll start with you. In the first round, it could be within the top 10. It doesn't matter. The whole draft. Who is the first team to trade up during the draft? All right, Ralph.
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I'll say Minnesota.
Ray?
I'm just thinking that somebody in the top 10 might try to jump up a spot or 2. If Belichick was still in New England, I'd say, he'd trade back like 2 picks or something, or something like
We're
that.
trading
I'll
up.
go with, yeah, no, I know, I'm saying he'd trade back to somebody just a few picks behind him.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised though if the Giants moved up, so I'm gonna say the Giants.
I say the Giants too. I just can't see how this regime is going to count on a quarterback that they didn't draft in their third season. I really believe they're going to move up. Okay, Ray, I'm going to start with you. Very similar. In the first round, who's the first team to trade back?
I think I think it will be I think it'll be the Patriots.
Okay, Ralph?
Yeah, I agree with you.
I say Arizona. I think they're going to trade out of their spot.
I don't know. I think they'd like having Harrison. Unless he's
We'll see. I think they're going to trade. They think they're going to get a bundle. All right, quickly, this is the last question. We'll start with Ralph. I'm going to name 4 defensive players. Who do you think is going to be chosen first? Quarterback Cooper DeJean from Iowa. Defensive lineman Brian Murphy from Texas. Cornerback Quinion Mitchell from Toledo. And defensive lineman Jazan Newton from Illinois. Who's going to be first?
I'll go with Quinion Mitchell.
Okay. Well, Ralph. Okay. He took mine. Go ahead, Ray.
I have no clue. Didn't you say what was his name? Cooper DeJean?
Cooper DeJean, Iowa.
I'll go with him.
Okay, Ray. I'm going to go with Queen and Mitchell too. Everyone is in love with this guy like crazy. All right, let's go next to our second mock draft, where let's see, we have 4 picks. Ralph, explain what happened now in the mock.
So I guess the Jets are going to trade with Jacksonville. You know, we just picked Jacksonville because you can get an even trade. We wanted to get a second round pick to make it fun. Jacksonville's what, at 17? Or are they? Yeah.
Yes.
And so the Jets get 17 and their second round pick, which was 47, is it, or 48? I forgot.
48.
48. And the Jets give up their 10th pick and their first pick in the 4th round, 111th pick.
Okay.
So the Jets are going to start whoever picks first is going to pick 17 in the first round. This will be interesting. Yeah.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you can go, Mark.
I'm going to go with this center, Jackson Powers Johnson, I guess from Oregon. He's a solid offensive lineman. It doesn't bother me that he's a center. And we also have Tippmann as a center. We could always move one to guard. This guy, I keep hearing he's a great leader and he's a great player from what I see. So my pick is, and they call him a JPJ, Johnson Powers Johnson from Oregon.
Well, Woody Johnson will like it. He's
okay. Ray, why don't you go?
All right, I'm going to go with Brian Thomas, wide receiver at LSU.
Okay, I think it's a great pick. I've been hearing things that he's moving up the charts because of speed and size, and that, you know, with the other receiver in LSU, he wasn't really given a chance to do certain things. So I think that's a great pick. All right, Ralph, you go.
I actually had Brian Thomas Jr. too. I'm worried that he wouldn't be there. This guys play 6 or 7 yards off the line. He just runs past them like Randy Moss used to. I think he will move up though. I don't know, Ray. We might get burned on this.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, but I knew.
But I can't change because it sets up the whole rest of my draft. So.
Well, I knew none of the others would be available, and I thought, well,
yeah,
if they're,
I'd be
where guys aren't for receivers, he might drop.
I think he could be a better player than O'Dunes. I think he could be. It's
hard to judge these guys.
It is hard to judge them. I mean, they're putting up these crazy numbers. You know, Marty, you had the guy from Washington, McMillan. You know, it's funny when you watch some of these guys. When I watch the Washington guys, all 3 of them, you know what jumps out at me the most is the damn accuracy of Michael Penix. Yeah. Oh my God, he makes these guys. He throws such a catchable, perfect ball.
I think people are stone drunk if they think Michael Penix gets out of the first round. He's
I
never
think,
gonna see the second round. I'll tell you
Uh,
what, if he's in the second round, I tell Joe Douglas,
I agree
give
with
up
you.
next year's pick
Yeah,
and get that player.
yeah.
Are you kidding me? It's
I
unbelievable.
I was listening to Pat Kerwin on NFL Network the other day, and he just thinks that guy has the best arm of any of the guys in the draft. He's just so accurate, make all the throws.
I
But
mean,
it's just
really,
the injury thing that has people most worried about him, I think.
Ralph, does he remind you any with the way, not his motion, but the accuracy of Dan Marino?
I mean, Marino had a strong arm. Marino had a super strong arm, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, when I see lefties, I always think of other lefties, and by that's the ironic thing, Marty. Your guy Fontenot was his left tackle, but he's a lefty, so he actually wasn't blocking his blind side. Rosengarten was,
That's
but
right.
it doesn't matter though, because like I said, you need two good tackles either way.
Right. That's right. All right. Who went? Where are we, Ralph?
So we're on the pick number 48 now, second round.
Yeah.
Okay, and who goes? Do I go? I don't mind
Sure,
going.
why not? Go
All
ahead.
right, I'm going with a receiver from Florida, Ricky Pearsall. The one thing who I like, I think he's a pretty good route runner. The one thing I thought of, and you'll see with my other picks, you realize if we don't somehow get a receiver and what's his name, Williams,
Williams isn't ready. Yeah.
if he gets hurt, I mean, we're in the same position as last year, just that we have Aaron Rodgers. So I want to get like two receivers in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. So my pick is Ricky Pearsall from Florida.
All right. Who's next?
I
Ray,
guess.
you want to go?
Yeah, sure, I'll go. I was surprised, Marty. I thought you were going to go for McConkey.
I like him a lot. I just, you know what? I don't think he's going to make it to 48.
Yeah, probably
Yeah.
I
not.
think he's
Yeah.
moving up. He's the best route runner in my mind in the draft. Okay.
Yeah. It's funny where you see these, you see these draft mags and these guys rating them and how low they were a month ago. And you're like, they're never going to be there.
Yeah.
Point. I'm hoping the guy that might drop, but I don't think he will, but I'm going with him anyway, is Guyton from Oklahoma.
I think that's a good pick. I don't know if he'll be there.
Yeah.
Because
I'm hoping, but
Yeah.
it's not a late second rounder. It's like mid second.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's
Right.
possible to be there. Ray and I are setting up our second round, this second draft the same. He went with the quarterback and the tackle. I'm going to go with the tackle too. I'm going to go with the tackle from Marty's favorite college, Brigham Young University.
Oh, yeah.
Kingsley Sumateo, who I think is a good fit for the Jets because he doesn't have to play immediately. And this guy is, I watched. I like that. He looks better than Becton did in college. This kid's talented. He's a great athlete, and let him learn a little.
Yeah.
And by the middle or late part of the year, when Tyler Smith goes down, we'll put him in there and just set this team up for a foundational offensive line for the next 6 or 7 years for the bunch of these picks.
Yeah.
it's funny, Ralph. You mentioned Brigham Young, but that quarterback who had an incredible first year at USC, Slovis, who has gone downhill. I think he ended up at Brigham Young too.
Then he went to Pitt, and then I see. Where I first saw Slovis play as a freshman. I saw him play against Brigham Young when Zach Wilson was there. It was one of Zach Wilson's best games, and I didn't like Slovis at all. They picked him off about 3 times. Never liked the guy. And he's really slipped.
He's on some list, some mocks going to the Jets in one of the 7th round.
Oh gosh,
I know. It's another Christian Hackenberg. So,
yeah.
All right. Let's see who goes now.
I think it's my turn.
Yeah, go ahead, Ray. We're on what? The pick number 48?
No, 72.
72. Okay, for anyone who's joined us either in the live stream or on the podcast, we're doing our second mock draft where the Jets traded back and they got a second round pick, number 48. We just did that, and now we're at the 3rd round pick, number 72. Ray's going to go. Go ahead, Ray.
Well, I listened to Ralph in the other pod about what our needs are. So I'm, and he may not be there, but I don't think safeties are high on anybody's list. I'm going with Javon Bullard out of Georgia.
Okay,
I
good.
think we could use another safety in case any of these guys
We could,
are
and
finding out.
he's a pretty good player, Ray.
Yeah.
Which is a good
That's why I say he may not be there, but
right.
I see he's going anywhere second to third, and I thought
Yeah.
we might get lucky.
Yeah. Ray, do you think if they had to pick one or the other, and I mentioned the cornerback situation with DJ Reed and Michael Carter the second, he's still on his rookie contract. If they had to do either or, safety or cornerback, what would you rather the Jets pick?
I like the guys on the roster at cornerback for the most part. I think there's more of a need at safety. If you really look at the depth or anything of it. And we saw with Whitehead that if it's not somebody who can be a true game changer, I know he was okay, but I want somebody who's solid back there. They can, you get who knows, Ed Reed type or somebody like that who can make plays. A safety can be a big asset, and I think we're in worse shape at safety than we are at corner. So I'd rather see him take care of those guys, maybe restructure Reed and keep them around,
Right.
something like that, and go for a safety.
Yeah, Ralph, same question to you. If it's an either or, safety or cornerback, where do you see the need?
Well, I mean, there's a question we're gonna talk about later in the draft about what position they should go after in the first round next year. And I think for this draft, safety. Ray and I are thinking alike because I'm going to pick a safety too. Except I was looking for guys who are center fielders who are ball hawks.
Yeah.
And I found two. I'm going to go with one who actually went to the same college as Ed Reed, Cameron Kinchins, who had about 6 picks last year. And he's one of these guys who doesn't hesitate. He likes to jump routes, and I want someone like that. To me, Tony Adams has the look of a guy who's going to be an average player. Hopefully, I'm wrong about that, but I really want an upgrade there. We haven't had a real ball hawk since probably Kerry Rhodes. There's another guy from USC, Kalen Bullock. I like him too. I could be happy with either one of them, but I'll take Kitchens.
Is there a guy from Rutgers also?
Yeah, I forget his name.
Yeah, that's good. Ray, I think Ralph's birthday is September.
Yeah.
Ray, we have to chip in and get him a Tony Adams Jets jersey because he'll wear it.
And then he get me a Jamie and Sherwood one too, because for some reason these two guys, I have pictures of the coaching staff. They can do no wrong,
It's incredible. But it's interesting because last year when the Jets traded with the Ravens for Chuck Clark, we were all unanimous about it, and they got him pretty cheap. And he had his injury, but I guess there's such a question mark. It was an ACL, wasn't it, Ralph?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, and ACLs they heal better, I guess, than Achilles. So we're hoping if he's back like, let's say 98%, I'm thinking of good things. But I agree with you guys that somewhere down the road in this draft, they're going to have to get a safety. All right, it's my turn now. With pick number 72, I picked before Ricky Pearsall. I'm going to go back to back and belly to belly. I'm going to pick Malachi Corley from Western Michigan. I'm not sure he's going to be there. He was putting up the charts.
That'll be tough. That'll be close. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it, I think, on the list of the 100 players on PFF, but I question it because he's moving up. And the reason being, because Robert Saleh is in love with Deebo Samuel. And he's been a little bit compared to him as a guy that was a running back that turned into a receiver. He's 5'11", 210. But it's not really a secret anymore. And I don't know if he's going to be there. I'm hoping he will, and I'm hoping the Jets will get him. But there's a better chance he goes the middle to the late second round. So my pick is Malachi Corley. And again, I did back-to-back because I'm concerned about the wide receiver situation. And I'm going to start with the last pick number 134. Here's another one. I'm not sure he's going to be there, but on the list I was looking at on PFF, he was available at that number. This tight end from Kansas State, Ben Sinnott, I've heard some good things about him, and I've read some good things about him. So I really like this guy. And you guys went through the history the last few weeks talking about Brock Bowers of like tight ends being drafted in the first round.
Mm.
And it's not really that good, over the years, it's not good. And I thought I heard a stat today. I don't know if it was by Rich Samine. I listened to him that in the last 15 years or something, not one first round tight end drafted has ever made the Super Bowl. The best tight end that was drafted in the first round, I think, was Tony Gonzalez. And did he make the Super Bowl? I don't think he did.
Oh.
No, he didn't.
No, he left Kansas City before they.
Yeah. So my pick is Ben Sinnott, and that's it. I'm out. And why don't you go, Ralph, and then Ray will pick up the cleanup.
All right. Well, I already picked my number 72 pick. So this is the 134 or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pick a guy I didn't know too much about, and I started watching film about him, and I think this guy has tremendous upside. Just don't necessarily need this. He's a guy. He's sort of an edge rush outside linebacker. Sort of think a mixture of Hassan Reddick and Quincy Williams. This guy from Penn State named Curtis Jacobs, and I watched film of him. I saw him against Ohio State, and he just was all over the field. He is fast around the edge. He's just plays with violence, as Sal likes to say. And I think his production probably wasn't high, but I think this guy's going to be a better pro than a college player. And so about 6'1", 240. And, you can't have enough talent. And even though they might not need a guy like that immediately, you always want guys like that. So I think they probably need a linebacker too.
Right. Okay, that's good. I like that. We're going to go on. I just want to mention one player that you get enamored with these players, and there's a tight end from Michigan, AJ Barner.
Yeah.
He's like a second tight end, and he doesn't have great stats, but I kind of like him. He came from Indiana, and the reason I like him is he was a converted quarterback, and when he's got the ball, he's like he's got a long strider. He's 6'6". And you know who he reminds me of, Ralph? I don't know if you remember him.
Jim Jensen.
No, close.
Yeah.
ASU era, years ago, they had a player.
Hardy, yeah.
Bruce Hardy,
Yeah,
who actually made the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Right, yeah.
Ray, he was a quarterback, and they converted him to tight end. He ended up playing 11 years in the Dolphins. So, maybe somewhere deep down in the draft that they don't get my Ben Sinnott, maybe one of the 7th-round picks, if he's available, AJ Barner. So that's that. All right, we're going to go to the next one. Ralph, what's the next on the agenda?
Well, I just want to add, I have a couple of 6th-round picks that I want to throw out here for the Jets. One for the first draft and one for this one. I think they're going to have to get a running back at some point, either sign a veteran.
Absolutely. Keep in mind, Joe Douglas is drafted a running back every year. Absolutely.
So this kid, I like this guy. His comp to me is Maurice Jones-Drew. I don't know if he's going to be as good as him, but he's built the same way. It's a kid from Troy. His name is Kamani Vidal. He's about 5'7", 210, and man, you cannot tackle this guy. There's no way to grab onto this guy. And he ran a 4.46 at the combine, not at his pro day, at the combine. And I would love for the Jets to get this guy. And the other pick, the 6th-round pick, Marty's going to love this. I am going to pick. This pick would be great if the Jets could get him as Mr. Irrelevant, because this guy reminds me a lot of Brock Purdy. You know who I'm talking about? He's about 6'1". He's
Western Kentucky?
No, Sam Hartman from Notre Dame.
Oh, Sam Hartman?
Yeah.
I really liked him. He was horrible in the Senior Bowl, and I liked but for better or for worse, a lot of times I like to look at an interview and see how the guy sounds. I wasn't that impressed with him, but he was on my radar too. Ray, what do you think of Sam Hartman? Ray's a Notre Dame guy. His father went to Notre Dame.
I like it. I think if it was something late like that, I'm okay with taking flyer on somebody like that who I don't think he's as quick as Purdy, but he is mobile. He can move around.
He seems to have a good feel for the pocket.
He does.
And, yeah.
Seventh round, I would take a chance on him. Funny thing about Notre Dame, and I mentioned Estime, the guy that my wife knows, but I never hear much about this tackle Blake Fishman. I see him ranked.
Blake Fisher,
Blake Fisher.
Yeah.
I don't know much about him.
He's probably going to go like third or fourth round. He's pretty. He's fairly well thought of, actually. That wouldn't be
on my list. I almost went.
Yeah.
Anyway, can I finish out my draft, Marty?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ray. I lose track. This is Ralph.
Okay.
Okay.
So
we pick 134 this year. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ray. I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's okay. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Ralph, that's we're punishing him for being 5 minutes late.
Yeah, that's right.
Go ahead.
I was if I hadn't gone for Brian Thomas, I was looking at a wide receiver out of A&M, Aeneas Smith.
Love him. I
think he could be a real playmaker.
There's a ton of receivers. They're going to be around the third and fourth round.
This is the year of the slot.
He may even be available later than
right.
So I'm going with the guard out of Utah, Seteo Lamea.
Yeah.
Him and Zinter were like.
That's easy for you to say.
Yeah, kind of. I probably butchered it, but hey, I'll get some practice in if we ever draft him. But I like him as a guard also. So I was debating between him and Zinter, but Zinter might be gone. So
right,
I don't want to pick the same guy both drafts. So
right, great choices. I love that guy. The other guy, he's got a lot of guts. He'll take on like big linebackers to block and everything. There's a lot of
big guy either.
Not a big guy, a lot of dirty work. And Ralph, I started to say this is the year of the slot receiver. How many guys are there from like 5'8" to like?
Yeah, I know. And I'm thinking, I mean, do we think that Xavier Gibson's going to take the next step and be that guy?
Gun to your head, what do you think? I mean, without a good quarterback, he played.
I think he's going to be a good player. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he showed us enough. All right. We're all through now with our picks.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on. What's next on the agenda, Ralph? What do you want to do?
I don't have the list in front of me. You look.
Okay. All right, here we go. We're going to do. Let's see if Robert. What's that, Ray?
Another thing about Saleh, I was saying.
Robert Saleh tells you it's your call to name the starting free safety right now. Who do you choose, Tony Adams or Ashton Davis? I'm going to start because I know what Ralph's going to say, but I'm going to say Ashton Davis. The guy I couldn't stand the first 2 years. He had horrible angles for tackling, and last year all of a sudden he became a player. He was excellent in special teams. He was on the field at the right place at the right time, reminded me of an old-time Jet, Dwight Lowery. Wherever the ball popped up, he was there. I definitely like him. Here's a guy who I think his skill set and his football IQ is catching up to his athletic ability. So I'm going to say Ashton Davis. And Ray, who do you say?
Well, at least starting out, I'd say stay with Tony Adams, but I like Ashton Davis. I've always liked. I'm not like you who wanted to get rid of him, the whole time.
You were right. I was wrong.
No. I mean, he wasn't playing great those first 2 years. I mean, a lot of people were wanting him to get rid of him, but I'm not convinced that he was playing in spot duty. So I'm not sure if he's ready to make that step as a full timer. But if Adams, falters, I'd give him the first shot at it. But if he faltered, it'd be a pretty quick hook for me.
All right, and Ralph?
I can't see them giving Adams the hook. They just, they gave him the job without him ever playing it. And so I'd take Davis. You're right, Marty. Davis was a walk-on at California. He did not have much football experience. And he's obviously a great athlete. I mean, he can run and jump with anyone on this team. Um, I went back and watched clips again of him in California. And the thing about him that I like is, there were some defensive backs who are conservative. They're not going to jump routes. If you're going to jump a route, you got to there can't be any hesitation, or because if you get there too late, you're screwed.
Right.
Davis always has had that instinct. Even college, there's one where he jumps one on Justin Herbert. Actually, really makes a nice pick, and he's got that. And I remember, even in the Cleveland game 2 years ago when he didn't play, they threw him in at the end of the game and he jumped that route and he picked off the pass, ends the game. And the best thing about it is he took a knee. He realized immediately that's all he had to do. Now, I think he's ready to start. I really do. I think he's paid his dues, and I think he's learned the game. And I think he'd be a really exciting player, but I'm not holding my breath,
Right. Listen, I think he's just going to get better. So I like that.
They love him. I know they love him, but
do.
they love him in that role, I think,
Right.
as a spot player.
Ralph, my favorite topic, who do you take? Where we compare.
Well, we didn't do the question about, you want to do it about next year's first round pick? What do you think?
Let's do this first.
Oh, okay. All right. You want to do, who do you take?
And we'll end up with the trivia as
all right.
We're getting ready for next week's live stream. We'll probably be on the air at 7:30. Ray is taking 3 days off in a row for the draft.
Wow.
We're going to be up for like 72 hours straight.
This is huge. We're just going to be taking amphetamines for 3 nights. Yeah.
That's it. Listening to Grateful Dead too in the background. Go ahead, Ralph.
All right. Who do you take? This is a fun thing for Jet fans who have been following the team for years. You pick 2 old-time Jets. Who do you like from a similar position? The first one is this is gonna rankle Marty, I know, but I'm sorry, Marty, your feelings are not important here. Who do you take, Kerry Rhodes or Victor Green? Let me just add one thing. We're judging them on their careers with the Jets, not their careers in total. Some of these guys, like Green, played for the Jets his whole career.
But Victor Green ended up in the Patriots.
Did he end up in the Patriots?
Year, I think it was the Patriots.
Oh, okay. Well,
which is but I would take Victor Green. I mean, he had that one bad play I'll never forget before, where he got suckered in by the Denver quarterback.
Elway.
Elway. But to me, I like him. I mean, Kerry Rhodes, he's a guy that, I mean, he used to tackle Marshawn Lynch from the head down. Marshawn Lynch would be carrying him like 10, 15, 20.
He carried a lot of people.
Yeah, and he was always on top of that too. So I would take Victor Green. How about you, Ray?
I mean, Rhodes had a few good years, but I don't think he ever turned into what he thought he was. But I liked Victor Green. He was just a gamer and a team guy, and he was solid. He wasn't elite, but he was definitely solid. I liked him.
Okay.
Yeah. I think at his best, I liked Rhodes better, but he didn't do it long enough.
No.
Yeah, it's funny. We had all these safeties like McMillan and Darrell Ray and Rhodes, and they just dropped off the face of the map. They started out so great.
It's unbelievable. It's like they take that first contract, they invest it right or something. They don't want to do it. All right, Ralph. All
right, one more. I got one more for you, an offensive one. And this one, it's important to remember. It's only their careers with the Jets, because neither of these guys played the majority of their careers with the Jets. John Riggins versus Thomas Jones. Who would you take?
Oh, that's a great one. That is, wow. You could flip a coin, but Ray, why don't you start?
Well, taking into account, here's the thing. Are you going by the era they played in when you're judging? Because I loved Riggins, but if it was today's game, I'd go with Thomas Jones.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Ray, because Riggins didn't have the numbers Jones had, but they didn't play as many games, and it's true.
Right. And it was more of a running game.
I think Riggins was a better receiver.
Riggins was a great receiver. Yeah, he used to catch bombs. He was a remarkable athlete. There's no doubt about it. But if you look at statistics, Thomas Jones had 3 years with the Jets. He was well over 1,000 each year, 13 and 14 touchdowns. I think Riggins was more talented, but I think Jones actually had, was more productive.
Right. Yeah, I think I would take Riggins, but that's a great comparison, Ralph. I like that. I love that the
And Jones also was running behind probably one of the best lines.
yes, he was.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's true too. All right, we're gonna close it out. We got to go back to the trivia question.
Well, let's do that. Let's do that other thing I wanted to do
Oh yeah,
about.
go ahead. You go ahead.
So I know this is jumping ahead, but you have to think this way. Next year, the Jets hopefully will have a late first round pick, God willing, a football God willing. And what position do you think is going to be like the focal point for, Jets fans chatter? Like, we got to get what position do you think is like going to be their top priority next year?
I'm gonna start, and I I don't know if they're gonna think like this, but I'm just trying to think ahead with like Mosley's age and everything. If there's like a linebacker that eats nails and could cover a back out of the backfield, I would say a linebacker at this point. Unless there's like a quarterback that they didn't take this year that's available that they think they could develop. It depends upon what's going on with Rodgers, but I would say linebacker. That's what I would do.
What do you say, Ray?
Well, partly being that we haven't seen the draft yet, so we aren't sure who we're going to have to work with this year. Until I see otherwise, I'm going to say we signed all these guys to 1-year deals. I don't know how they're going to be, but I have a feeling we're going to be talking about the line again, and offensive linemen. I think that'll be, unless they get a guy or two that are really good and almost plug and play guys or guys who will be ready next year. I think we're going to be talking about the offensive line, at least if not the top of one of the things we need.
Right. And Ralph?
So Marty, your thought is interesting. I think they could probably get an interior linebacker in the second round. The guy, this is what I'm thinking, and I think this is we have to think about this. I think they're going to go for a cornerback.
I thought you were going to say edge.
Yeah, because Michael Carter's contract is up. DJ Reed's contract is up, and I think Gardner, he's way outplayed his contract too. Right. And I can't see them signing all of them. And I think DJ Reed's the odd man out because he's older and he's going to be more expensive than Michael Carter. So I think what they'll do is they'll draft one and they'll slot him alongside Gardner. I mean, I know it's tough, but sooner or later they're going to have to pay the piper.
That's why I wouldn't be shocked if, let's say, in the third round, he picks a cornerback. I know we say we get safety, but if he's thinking ahead, he thinks he's going to have a job, I think he might want another quarterback under that rookie contract. So that's not out of the realm. So, Ralph, that's very good. All right, let's end this up. We're training for our marathon session next Thursday for the draft. We're going to be on there at 7:30. So, Ralph, let's repeat the trivia question that Marty has no idea, and I refuse to look it up. I'm playing by the rules. Go ahead, Ralph.
Since 1990, the Jets have drafted in the second round 7 wide receivers, and none of them panned out, which is mathematical, almost it's so improbable. It's beyond belief. And like Marty said, his grandchild could have done a better job. Literally, I mean, Ray, you could have thrown darts at a board. It's just ridiculous. I mean, you think of all of the assets and time and money they put into that, and they got nothing out of it. So anyway, we named 3 of them that Marty had on his list of busts: Stephen Hill, Devin Smith, and Marty's favorite all-time player, Denzel Mims. Marty's got a lot of all-time. Who are the other 4? Can you name the other 4 bust second-round wide receiver picks since 1990? One of them is very recent, and the other 3 are way back.
Just one of them just came to me, and this is my only one out of 4, so I'm only batting .250. It's Alex Van Dyke.
That's right. Alex Van Dyke. I think he was the first pick in the second round or something like that.
Yeah, because they had that same year they drafted Keyshawn. They drafted 2 wide receivers.
Yeah.
So that's the only one I come up with. I know Ray is much better than me at this trivia. Go ahead, Ray.
Not when it comes to when guys were drafted. I remember I couldn't.
One of them you're going to kick yourself on, Elijah Moore.
I'm going to.
Yeah, okay.
The other two were a guy named Ryan Yarborough.
Yes, I remember him.
Believe it or not, he is still in the top 10 all-time receiving yards for college football. I was just looking at that today.
That's unbelievable. He was such a bum in the Jets.
And the first one they did in 1990 was a guy named Reggie Rembert.
I remember Reggie Rembert, another bum.
Was he with Pittsburgh or something like that? He came out of
Virginia, West Virginia.
West Virginia,
Maybe I don't know. Maybe it was
Virginia.
Pittsburgh. Yeah, I don't
West Virginia.
Yeah. The only other wide receiver they've ever picked in their history in the second round was Wesley Walker. So we paid for that for 50 years after.
Wesley, very underrated. He had great stats, which is incredible. And, it shows you that, these teams, they put like millions upon millions of dollars with scouts traveling different parts of the country, doing everything, doing all these analyticals, everything, having experts come in. They're having Stanford and Harvard math students doing formulas, algorithms and everything. But what it comes down to is just a pure crapshoot. Everybody says it, and it's true. You could throw darts against a dartboard. Nobody knows what's going on. And I can tell you that Mel Kiper Jr., he's been saying it for years. The NFL, and just one position, they don't know how to evaluate quarterbacks. But you could almost say that about any position too. I mean, it's just incredible that it's just, there's a lot of luck involved. And that's why I always maintain that I'd rather trade back and spread my risk and have more picks.
It's true, Marty. It does sound logical, but for years I sat up in New England here, and Bill Belichick, that's all he did, would keep trading back, and his drafts stunk.
Terrible. Look at the position. Look at what he left them with now.
Yeah,
Think about it.
I know.
That's what. And it came up that New England. I don't know if they put out the field. All these teams do is they put out rumors, you know what I mean? But the rumors that they want to trade out of their pick, but we'll have to see. Another so-called experts say they're crazy. So anyway, we're going to close up. This is our first live stream. Hopefully you heard us. And if there's a feedback in the back, it's because we don't have the sound down right yet. We will next week for the draft. Is there anything else, Ray, you want to mention about anything with the draft? Anything with the Ohio State Buckeyes or Notre Dame, your two college teams you want to mention?
Well, not as far as the college teams themselves, but there is a guy that you had said a later round, Ralph had mentioned a later round running back that Ohio State has. It's going to be in the draft. Now, he did get hurt last year, so it probably dropped him a little, but he is definitely a pile mover. His name is Mayan Williams, and if you look him up, he's not a shifty runner. He's got decent speed. He averaged like 6 yards a carry when he had to fill in when all these guys were getting hurt last year. And then this past year, he got hurt. I can't remember how far into the season it was, but so his year was shortened. But he's definitely, we always say we need pile movers and stuff. This guy is not a bad running back, spot running back, but he's definitely a guy who can move the pile, and so I wouldn't mind getting that guy in a later round pick either if we could pick him up.
Yeah, well, look, one thing I think we could all guarantee this year in the draft, and I guess we have how many picks we have, Ralph? 7? We have 2. We don't have a 5th round and a 3rd round, right? We have 2 7s and 2 4s.
And we have a 3, no 2. We have 1, 2, 4, 6, 7. Yeah.
I think it's a guarantee they're going to draft an offensive lineman and a running back. Are there any other guarantees you could think of?
Well, and there's also the undrafted free agents. But then I also hear that they might sign a veteran running back between now and the beginning of the season, which wouldn't be a bad idea if they picked not someone too old. I mean, the Jets have this obsession with getting old running backs who are past their prime all the time.
Is Frank Gore available?
His son is. His son is in this draft.
I know that.
And so is Jerry Rice's kid.
Zeke Elliott.
Zeke Elliott, watched him on the Patriots last year, and I couldn't decide whether he was done or not. He's not that old, but
think he's going back to Dallas. So.
Yeah.
I think he might go back to Dallas too. All right, so
Well, Marty, I just have
ahead,
a couple of more things about Brock Bowers, because obviously this guy could be a Jet. You know, when I watch him, I watch film from I go back and forth, and at times I think this guy's just an explosive player, and then other times I look at him and say he's a slow wide receiver or an undersized tight end. But as I watch him, I kept thinking he reminds me of someone, size-wise and the way he plays. And I finally figured it out. Hopefully, he doesn't remind me of him character-wise, but he reminds me a lot of Aaron Hernandez as a player. And Aaron Hernandez used to kill the Jets. He scared me more than Gronkowski did those first few years. And so that's not a bad thing for Brock Bowers if he becomes like an Aaron Hernandez.
Ralph, how tall was Hernandez?
Hernandez was a little shorter than Bowers. He was probably 6'2.5", 240. Bowers is like 6'4", 240.
Right.
But
I think he's 6'3", but that's
yeah, probably. They're open field. They're very similar. You don't see because he's a lighter tight end, so he's kind of nimble. And I remember Hernandez breaking some long runs against the Jets, and it was like they're never going to tackle the guy.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
We're going to close. Anything else, Ray? We're going to close this out as
No.
we have my two close friends, Ray Clifford in Ohio, Ralph Schraeg in Massachusetts. I'm in Valley Cottage, New York. This was our first live stream. Thank you for listening. Anyone who was on the live stream, I want to thank you. We're going to be on the air next Thursday, the night of the draft, probably about 7:30. So for Ray Clifford, Ralph Schraeg, and Marty Shupak, until next time. Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to close this out. Let's see.
Move.
I don't know if
You're still going.
okay, hold on. I might lose you. Are we still going?
It says it is.
It says custom live streaming. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to have to call you guys up. I'll call you. I'm going to end